Welcome into Nighttime at Noon on Fox Sports Las Vegas, also streamed on the Vegas Golden Knights digital platforms, live from Studio 31 here at City National Arena. Ashali, Vise here with you, joined by VGK analyst, the Sheriff, Hnidy. Shane, we're mixing up the routine a little bit. We normally do this show on Monday, but there was a game. So here we are with a Tuesday edition of Nighttime at Noon. But I'm curious your thoughts. I get to this point in the season where it's either a game day or it's not a game day. I have no idea what day of the week it is at any given moment.
Yeah, that's been my life for the last, well, I'm not going to say how many years. Being a part as a player and broadcaster, yeah, you kind of, once it's in season, it's basically, like you said, it's either game day or non-game day. And that's, you're lucky. Every now and then you'll catch up, know what day of the week it is. It's kind of routine. But, yeah, it's certainly here with a long homestand, too. It's been a little unusual for a team to have this many games in a row at home, obviously with the postponements of a couple of Canadian games.
Yeah, wouldn't have it any other way. Just a random thought. Some news to break down. There was an optional skate this morning, and Pete DeBoer said during media availability that Ryan Craig, Steve Spott, and Logan Thompson are in COVID protocol. Alec Martinez now out of COVID protocol, but now he has to catch up on some conditioning because he's missed several days being in COVID protocol. He was on the ice, still in a red non-contact sweater. So we'll dive into all of that a little bit later in the show. But first, last night, the VGK, a 3-goal lead in the first period, come back and lose 5-3 to Pittsburgh. Is that a game that you are dissecting, or is that one that you just throw out the window and move on?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that one stings because of the ability to get up 3-0. But I think it's one of those gooses at this point. I think every team's dealing, whether it's people in and out of the lineup, rust. I know there was a layoff, but it's kind of been a homestand, a disappointing one. And you look at that game, the ability to come out and play. And, yeah, there's a lot of games when things don't go your way, you throw it out and you say, okay, that's – but this game, I think there are situational plays that didn't go their way. So you learn from that. They scored a goal in the first off a face-off win. There's, the neutral zone draws don't matter that much, but when you're taking important offensive or defensive zone draws, that's situational play and awareness. Then in the second period, third period, they give up a couple of goals right off clean face-off wins. And I think they have to recognize that. The second period, they got into penalty trouble. They weren't ready. I think you can't lay off on a 3-goal lead against a team like that. And even you look at that first period, I thought Robin Leonard made a couple of good saves. They only had 7 shots. So it wasn't, they were up 3-0. But I don't know if it was really indicative of the way they were playing or just kind of, opportunistic. But human nature, a 3-goal lead, all right, you think everything's going your way, and I think, you can't take your foot off the gas. So it's what they learn from that game and making sure those mistakes are learned and you don't repeat, especially against good teams like Pittsburgh. There's other teams you may be able to get away with, okay, you weren't ready for the first 5 minutes of the second, but you get going after that. Well, they weren't ready, penalties, all of a sudden it's a 1-goal game. It's completely changed everything. So I think this is a good learning experience, and it's got to be taken the right way. It's not just a wash away. It's one you don't dissect necessarily, but you really look hard at as individuals and as a group that, hey, we need to be better. We need to have a more consistent effort, and they will. It's a veteran group in there. They understand that they can't afford to continue to play that way and say, oh, well, we don't hit the panic button. We don't do the. It's time to say, okay, let's learn from that. Let's go on and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, soul-searching, that's the term that Mark Stone used after the game last night.
That's why he's the captain.
Yeah, I thought that was a good phrase. And historically, throughout this season, this team has actually gotten up for some of the best opponents. Does it sometimes take that kind of loss, like you said, human nature, to kind of wake you up and be like, okay, can't get away with that again?
Yeah, and I think that builds resolve in the group and in the team. And when your captain says soul searching, like it is. It's one of those. It's not only as a group you got to look at. I think individually, soul searching, look in the mirror, whatever you want to call. Look at the guy next to you to make sure that as a group, okay, and there's an understanding within that room that, all right, this hasn't been good enough. They're historically been a great team on home ice. This homestand hasn't gone their way. I think it's been too long. As a group of guys, when you're in there, when you're at home, there's a lot of things. You love playing at home. There's nothing better than playing at your home building for a stretch of games. But they're going to be playing their 8th, and they need a win in this one against Montreal. But that's a long time. When you get away, it's just a group. It's just the guys. You need those little breaks, road trips to go away and kind of reconnect. At home, there's a lot. You guys have families. There's a lot of things going on. So I think they'll welcome a road trip. But that said, there's a big job to be done against the Canadians, and it's up to them as a group to get back. And they've been able to show that, and I think that's going to be on them here against the Montreal team that they can't take lightly. They've got to approach every team the same way, and we've heard that discussed from the coaching staff, from the players about the focus is on our game, because when they do focus on and when they play the style, the type, the detailed game they want. Then they impose that on the other team. Make the other team adapt to you rather than you having to adapt to them. And that's when they have success. They certainly have the talent. It's just a matter of them. Their execution needs to be better.
Staying on that home ice topic, you talked about how this has been too long of a homestand. But if you take that kind of out of the equation, a lot of people are concerned about the overall home record. And
Yeah.
Pete DeBoer pointed to a couple things yesterday. He said he thinks that those 3 straight losses at the beginning of the season played into it. He said the power plays a lot better on the road than it is at home, and he doesn't necessarily trust either of those extremes, but that's probably playing into it. All in all, is it too soon, given the sample size? We're only halfway through the season. Is it too soon to be super concerned about the home record? Do you think some of that is just coincidence? They've happened to lose at home, or as a player, is there more to it?
I don't think you can ever really, you don't want to be super concerned. There needs to be some concern. Absolutely. They need to be better. And I think it's about learning how to play at home the right way. At times, it's easier on the road. There's less pressure. There's less expectation when you're away from your home building. And it sometimes makes it easier to play. But good teams play under pressure, play with expectations, and the Golden Knights can. It's just a matter of them getting back to it. And I think it's still early. There's still a lot of home games for them to find their game and to establish dominance on home ice once again. I think they're at the point now where they're saying, no worry, don't worry, don't worry. Well, now there has to be a little bit of that urgency that creeps into them when they step on the ice at T-Mobile.
Something that Mark Stone pointed to last night, he was asked about the defensive identity of the team not being where it has been previously. Are we underestimating what the absence of Alec Martinez has done? Kind of out of sight, out of mind. Are we underestimating how big of a hole that's left?
Absolutely. You look at, and I said this is, Alex Petrangelo's been phenomenal this season. I think, being able to step up his game. We've seen a lot of guys grow in their game in White Cloud, Theodore. But at the same time, Alec Martinez last season was arguably their best all-around defenseman. You can throw him in there with Alex Petrangelo, but Martinez had a great year last year. He's kind of a mix of, you love what McNabb does, all the little things, the blocking, the shots, the hits, the kind of, they just... The ultimate warrior that goes out there and battles for his team. Well, Martinez does that, then he has a little more of an offensive edge to his game. So that's a very important player to take out, and he's hard to play against because he has that experience. You don't win, you can't underestimate somebody who's been there to win 2 Stanley Cups, who's not only won 2 Stanleys, he scored game-winning goals, series clinching goals. He understands what you need to do in those big moments. He's a huge loss to this team. And hopefully it's good to see him back on the ice out of COVID protocol. He's going to need some practice time. He's going to have to, try and simulate as much game action as he can when he's ready for that point. Another guy is Nick Hague, who has been out, and, I think it speaks to his development and growth that we're saying, yeah, they're missing Nick Hague. This is a guy who started on the 5-6 pairing, then all of a sudden he's playing top with Alex Petrangelo, and you notice him out of the lineup. He's a big body, and a lot of these goals, like Pete DeBoer said last night, they're too soft in front of their net. And mentioned guys like Hague and Martinez, those are the type of guys that make a difference in those areas.
More on this when we come back, but we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Jared is looking forward, I think it's important we play 60 minutes of winning hockey. I think there's a saying, right? If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And we played a very good team last night. That's rolling, that's healthy, and I think there was some real good lessons for us as a group to come out of that, and that's on us to apply it to tomorrow night and to the upcoming road trip, because we don't have any easy games on the schedule.
So that was Pete DeBoer this morning, referencing last night's game and, of course, the road ahead. Welcome back to Nighttime at Noon. Once again, Ashali Vise with VGK analyst Shane Hnidy. Shane, he talked about tomorrow. He was talking about Thursday. The Montreal Canadiens come into town. I know earlier in the show you said you have to approach every team the same way, but pretend like you're not a player. You're just an analyst here. Montreal has 7 wins this season. 7. For perspective, everyone likes to give the Arizona Coyotes a hard time, right? Arizona has 9 wins. The Canadiens have 7. What are you expecting when they come into town?
I expect the Golden Knights to go out and win this game. This should be a win. There's no excuse for anything else. I think you don't worry about the opponent. And this is what I talked about in the first part. I think it's not so much about the opponent here. This is about them focusing on their game. What makes the Golden Knights good? They know that in the room. What makes my line good? What makes me good as a defense with my partner? Focus on those, stick to their details, play the game the way they're supposed to, and play it. They need a consistent 60. It can't just be spurts. They've got to go out and try and put in a dominating performance. I think the last complete game I can think of was probably New Year's Day against Anaheim. I think that's the type of approach, that's the type of game they can play and go out. Don't worry about where the Canadiens sit. Learn from what they did against the Penguins, right? Learn about playing against a good team that you can't. You've got to be aware. You can't take time off. You can't get into penalty trouble. You got to stick to what your game plan is, because this is a tune-up. That road trip they're going on.
Yep.
Washington, Carolina,
yep.
Florida, Tampa. Like that is a dangerous Eastern tour for all teams to go through, and you want to make sure you're going in there with the right mindset, with your game in the right place. So this is the type of game that and type of team they're playing that they can utilize to get on track, to get back to that top performance, to feel good, to make sure they're heading out on that road trip with, some swag to their game.
You have to point out, as we're talking about last night and people worrying about home ice, worrying about all this, the Golden Knights are in an incredible position. Still, they just have to get back on track. How big would that road trip be in getting back on track? If you can even, I don't know, if you go 500 on that road trip, is it a win? What is successful on that kind of road trip? Beasts of the Eastern Conference.
Well, the last one they went 4-0.
Yep.
So, obviously that's the goal. I don't think, and that's where you get into danger and say, okay, well, if we split this road trip, we'll consider that decent. And it's termed cliche a lot, but it really is a one game at a time mentality. They have to do that, and eventually they add up. I think they can go 3-1 on this trip, or 4-0 is what they can, but it's on them. You want to establish yourself as the top team in the West. I think that's a challenge that athletes and players welcome, is to go against the top in the other conference and prove your worth. So that's a great opportunity. These are easy games for them to get up for when you play against these top teams. Washington, obviously, there's a little more history there with what happened in year one. I think Carolina is, they've been all these teams are to me, these are the top teams in the East, and they were able to go in Boston and win for the first time. I think Boston's a different team now. And in New York against the Rangers, but these ones seem a little more dangerous. So I think this is a great opportunity for them. I think as competitors, these are the challenges you look forward to, especially at this point in the season as things start to ramp up. This can be one of those trips that really vaults them forward in the right direction.
It's funny that you use the term looking forward. On that note, I want to take a listen to what Pete DeBoer said about the road trip this morning.
Joel, I think you'd be insane to say we're excited about going into those buildings, but I think the history of our group here has been that when we play with a little bit of fear in our belly, we're usually pretty good. And we should have that in these upcoming games. I think, for me, when I look at last night, we were opportunistic in the first period, and then, they got a veteran team that's won and knows how to win, and they ramped up their compete level, and we didn't defend hard enough or smart enough to close out that game.
So a tough road trip ahead, like we talked about. Peter
I'd
said
look
he doesn't know
forward
if anyone looks forward to it. I think that the players, these guys, it's a competitive team.
And
they like to get up.
Yeah, and it's a good point when he says a little bit of fear. I think that's what you need to have. That's what drives a player. That any motivation you can pull from whatever source is beneficial to go out and compete. So. Obviously it's a lot in a row. You'd like to maybe hit one or two of those teams in a 4-game, not a 4-for-4 against it. But as we said, I think it's an important game Thursday for them against Montreal to maybe approach it the same way, to get in that type of mindset that we got to be ready for this road trip. Let's take care of business. We got one more home game, and I think they'll be excited to play. And certainly, there's a lot of the guys from French Canada certainly get excited to play the Montreal Canadiens. Nick Waugh spoke this morning. Yep. He does at Marcia. So those guys are always excited to play an Original Six team, and then get set for that road trip and really, get ready for the Capitals. They're first on the docket.
I think something we've seen all season, regardless of who's in, who's out for various reasons, this team definitely has the talent to do it. All-stars, if you will. So I want to turn to that topic a little bit.
Let's
Pete
go.
DeBoer, head coach of the Pacific Division. Alex Pietrangelo set to make his third All-Star appearance. Captain Mark Stone making his first. This is going to be some pretty good representation for the home team here.
Yeah, it really is, and I think especially when it's in their hometown here. For them to have the opportunity to play in front of their fans and to go out and I think these games, now that they've added a little bit of money, the kind of little mini tournament has turned up the intensity. I think it's a great experience for fans to go to the skills competition, which they'll have first, and a special moment, especially Mark Stone being his first. And I think also Alex Pietrangelo. Everyone's kind of different, and I think it's even adds to it, as he said, the ability to play in your home city. And for Pete DeBoer to be behind the bench, I think it's something you take in, you experience, and kind of cherish every moment that goes along with it.
So Troy Terry ended up being the last man in for the Pacific Division, which is a bummer. But people do back out of these things. You never know. I would not write off necessarily Jonathan Marsh, so there's still a chance he gets in, and it would be really cool for him. I don't know if anyone loves Vegas and loves being a Golden Knight more than Marchie.
Well, it's such a great story because you're talking about a player that was undrafted, overlooked for so many years, and then he is a guy that has just, with sure will and obviously talent and skill, forced his way not only into the league but as an all-star with the way he's been able to score goals, and started with Tampa, then in Florida, and then now here. And I think he's kind of played with that chip on his shoulder to prove himself, and he has. And I think this would be a really real special moment for him if he can get that opportunity. He said there's still time. They've got some hockey to play yet around the league. Injuries happen, things can happen that change, and guys may back out. So we'll wait and see on that. I was really hoping he would have gotten the nod, the votes, but still well represented with Stone, Pietrangelo, and Pete DeBoer.
Also, Nathan MacKinnon shared some opinions last week. He said he thought that his team, the Avs, should have 5 to 6 players. He said, I believe what he said is he thinks it's silly that every team has to send someone. So we don't have to dive into that necessarily, but I'm curious, other than Jonathan Marsh, so is there anyone that you think could have had an argument to be an all-star that maybe isn't?
Roman Josi. There's a lot of guys, and each and every team's going to be biased that they should have more than the other. There's so many good players around the league. You could make more all-star teams. You could up it to whatever amount you want, but at some point, I think there needs to be representation from every team. I think that's part of it. It's a showcase of talent around the league, and unfortunately, you have to cap it at a certain number. So yeah, there's going to be some very good players that should be rewarded as an all-star that don't get in. That's just the reality of it. I think, there's no need to take it personal. And I think Nathan MacKinnon, he's sticking up for his team. I don't agree with him, but that's his point. And the All-Star game is what it is. It's a showcase, and there's always going to be people that are okay with it. Probably the majority aren't, because they're fans and they want more of their team in there, or they feel more strongly about their players, and that's what makes it passion.
I interviewed Max Pacioretty, I believe it was during the Boston game, was asking him about Chandler Stevenson, and some fans made the joke that they thought he was trying to get him in the fastest skater competition, because I asked what makes him so effective, and he said he's one of, if not the fastest skaters in the league. Curious, if Chandler Stevenson was able to be in a fastest skater competition, do you think that the league might be surprised at the way he might keep up with guys like Nathan MacKinnon and Connor McDavid and whoever else might be in that competition?
I don't think anymore. I think he's established that he is one of the fastest skaters in the league. I think teams know that. Every team now, you do pre-scouts, you have individual kind of little scouting reports on the opposition, and I guarantee at the top of it for Chandler Stevenson, from every team that sets that out for their players when they're facing the Golden Knights, talks about his speed. And then for them to witness it on the ice, players know they're pretty quick at picking up at players, and certainly with him, what he's been able to do this season for the Golden Knights with so many injuries and be consistent and lead this team. Everyone's aware of his ability to get up and down the ice very quickly. The guy that's kind of coming along now is Matthias Janmark, as well as got some good wheels.
Dead spot,
yeah.
Dead stop, just
from a dead
draws
stop.
The penalty.
That's
Incredible.
not fun as a defenseman. It's almost embarrassing, but it was a pretty good defenseman, Chris Letang, that was chasing him down.
Well, we are about to take a break, but first, you need more hockey? Make sure to check out the newest team in town, the Henderson Silver Knights of the American Hockey League. Single game, group, and mini suite tickets for home games during the 2021-22 season are on sale now. Contact the Henderson Silver Knights ticketing team at 702-645-4259 or visit hendersonsilverknightshockey.com to learn more. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nighttime at Noon, and be one of the first to join the Vegas Nighthawks family. Secure your seat selection priority today by placing a refundable $20 deposit at nighthawksfootball.com. Full season membership will start at just $10 a ticket at the brand new Dollar Loan Center located in Henderson. Welcome back inside once again. Ashali Vise with the Sheriff, Shane Hnidy. And Shane, we're talking about all this NHL All-Star news. This might not have anything to do with the NHL, but Zayden Hnidy is an all-star of his own. Why don't you tell us about his all-star game coming up in February?
Oh, boy. I shouldn't tell you stuff. Yeah, just my son's playing in the high school all-star game that same weekend, the Sunday. So it's going to be, I'm going to have skills, NHL all-star game, and then high school all-star game down in California. So we'll see how he does.
Well, congratulations and good luck to Zayden. Also, you help coach his team. I'm curious, how would you describe yourself as a coach, Shane? Have these kids seen you drop the gloves?
They're scared.
Have they seen all this?
They're scared of me. I like to be intense, right? I think I grew up with the old school coaches. I love working with the kids, but you want to keep them on edge. I want them to work hard and to work as a group. So it's fun to get out and help out when I can. Obviously, our schedule doesn't permit to be there all the time, but I am willing to help out when I can.
I remember one day we were landing at like 1 or 2 a.m. and you were like, oh, have to be at the rink in 3.5
morning
hours.
Practice, yep.
And you told me the other day they don't necessarily get you at the best time of day.
No.
5 a.m.'s not the best time to get the Sheriff.
No, 5:30 in the morning, not at my cheeriest, just to say the least.
Well, that's all right. Well, some more Golden Knights news. Prospect Brendan Brisson named to the U.S. Olympic team, so congrats to him. He was the number 29 overall pick by the VGK back in 2020, currently playing at the University of Michigan. Now, I know there have been a lot of mixed feelings, mixed opinions about NHL players not going, but this is an incredible opportunity for some of these young stars to get an incredible experience.
Absolutely, and I think it's good for the Golden Knights organization when you have a prospect, a player, obviously at University of Michigan, getting that development and that process of learning there. But when they get an opportunity, whether it's a junior or collegiate player, first of all, to play in the World Junior Championships, which that got canceled. We're going to see more guys do that. But at any level where you can represent your country, and especially the Olympics. So this is going to be a step up from World Juniors for your prospect and for Brisson to have a chance to play at this level. I think it's great for development to play with that type of pressure, those type of high, intense games that carry so much weight. You learn, and it's only beneficial to him as he continues to grow as a player in all aspects. So I think this is a great opportunity for him to represent the United States and play in the Olympics. Wow, at a young age. He's only going to learn from it. So hopefully he has success. I think it's always good when he can win if they're able to do that, even though I'm Canadian. But
you're Team USA now. You can pretend.
I cheer for both. We'll see what happens if they meet up. I'll deal with it when it comes.
Well, he's a stud, too. 15 goals and 30 points through 25 games at Michigan this season. Pretty incredible. But he knows he's not just representing his country and his college. He knows he's representing Vegas, too. Here he was on that yesterday.
I'll be representing Vegas, and I know I haven't obviously been, with the team yet or been, I'm not a part of the team yet, but, I'm still part of the Vegas family, and just representing Vegas and, playing for their fans as well. Something that's going to be really cool. I could, make a really good impression for myself out there. And, hopefully, obviously Vegas is in the United States. So I feel like they'll all be rooting for our team as well.
Do you have a favorite Olympic memory, Shane?
There's a few. 2010. Remember that one?
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
I think
Sidney
the whole
Crosby,
world
the golden,
remembers that one, but
golden
we don't
goal.
talk about Sidney Crosby after last night.
No,
Shane.
that's
What
true.
are you
Well, that was an
doing?
empty
What are you
net
doing?
goal. But a good point there by Brendan Brisson talking about an opportunity, and I think that's a great way for him to look at it because, there's going to be, to establish himself, to climb up here, for the Golden Knights organization, which we'll be watching. This is an evaluation for them to watch him at a higher level and to see how he can compete, how he can grow, and how he can play. So, he's a player that, it's great that he's representing Vegas. He's representing the United States. And he's got something to prove. I think every situation he puts himself in, at that age, you want to prove yourself, and he's been able to do it at University of Michigan. You mentioned 15 goals. The guy has a crazy one-timer. He can release the puck. He is a shooter. So good on him.
Kind of a testament to what this organization has done, that you have prospects like that, but you still have such a stacked team right now. Like, not only is right now bright, but the future's bright.
Oh, certainly, and that's what you want to do. That's the challenge for any hockey ops staff, general managers Kelly McCrimmon, George McPhee, to not only have a team that's competitive now, to make sure you kind of, I think the term they use is stock the cupboard as much as you can, so that you can pull those pieces out when you need them. And I think, that's one thing you've seen this year is the organizational depth with dealing with COVID and dealing with some, crazy amount of injuries here for the Golden Knights, to see some players from the Henderson Silver Knights get the opportunity to come up to play, and not only play but be successful. I think that's so important, and it's made them learn more, evaluate more about where they're at as an organization and as a team, and then have these kids that are in junior or college that are coming up, and they're the next ones to go to Henderson and so forth. So lots of good things down the pipeline for Vegas.
You talk about the Henderson Silver Knights players who not only came up, but came up and made a difference. You see Jack Eichel now on the ice, who Pete DeBoer says is giving, a boost. But how do all of these things not only give you a boost because talent's coming in, but as a player, how does it enhance the internal competition?
Oh, I think it does. Believe me, as someone who had to deal with the young players always constantly pushing you, I think that gives you determination to prove your worth each and every day, regardless of how long you've been in the league. Everybody that puts on that Golden Knights uniform doesn't want to give it up to anybody. So it's a matter of playing each and every game and going out there with that type of attitude that, hey, I just want to continue to prove my worth, because there's some guys down at Henderson that want that opportunity. It's always good and beneficial in any organization when you can have that type of internal competition that drives you, and that's important to have. And you mentioned Jack Eichel. I could watch him practice for hours. He is so smooth, so good. His shot, his hands, he's getting better and better each day as he kind of ramps it up. Still, obviously no contact, and we'll wait to see what that is. I don't think there's any way you can put a time on when that's going to happen. That'll be something that'll happen internally with all the medical people that are involved. But he is about as smooth as it comes on the ice.
You said you could watch him all practice long. These fans also can't get enough hearing. So can you dissect even more, like, what makes him so good? I know I was talking to Darren Millard when we were watching practice a couple days ago, and he was like, I don't know if anyone really even understands just how talented he is and what a difference he's going to make. Like, can you verbalize that?
Well, let's start with his skating. His edge work is so good as a skater. He's an efficient, smooth skater. He does it effortlessly. And then his hands move about as quick as his feet. His shot, which that might be the biggest surprise, because I think you always learn more when you know about players around the league, but when you cover one team or you watch a team practice day in and day out, you pick up more things. And a great example of that is Mark Stone. I think Alex Pietrangelo talked about it not long ago. Day in and day out, when you're with a player, you grow such a more respect for the way and how good they are on the things they do, the little details. And I think with Eichel, we still a lot more to learn. You're going to enjoy every moment, but his release, his shot is something else. Pacioretty has that one of the most elite shots in the league. It's heavy, it's hard. I think Eichel's is a little different, but his release is so quick, and he's able to do it in stride. And I think from so many different positions skating, when you can release the puck as quick as he can, it doesn't allow the goalie to get set. And then he's a good passer. He's got his head up. He sees the ice so well. He's able to do everything in motion, and in deceiving the way he can do it with his stick handling. You don't know whether it's a shot or a pass coming. So, very, very special player that we'll wait and see. I said when they first traded for him, it was like, I live in Canada. It's like getting a bike at Christmas when you live in the winter. You don't get to enjoy it until the summer. now it's like the weather's warming up. I'm excited to see him, but we just don't know when it'll be.
You take all those weapons that you talked about and then you pair it with the mental aspect. He seems so enthusiastic about being here. It was just a week ago, last Tuesday, that he met with the media, and he seemed so excited to be here. He said he thinks he'll know when he's physically, mentally, and emotionally ready, but more importantly, he's confident that the team will trust him when that time comes. How does taking that skill and pairing that with the situation that he's comfortable with, how does that just make the whole thing even more dangerous?
So there's two things to me that make it really dangerous in a good way for Golden Knights fans is his motivation. What drives athletes? Well, it's to prove yourself. Not that he needs to, but he wants to, and he's not happy with the way this situation went with the Buffalo Sabres, with everything handled, and with maybe some doubters out there that can he return to the form. So motivation is a huge factor for him, and he is a guy that I think is really driven by it. That, and then the other factor is he's never been surrounded with this type of talent.
Yep.
He's never played on a team.
Has anyone on this team, though?
No, a lot of guys. Some guys.
Do you think any of these players have ever played on such a stacked team?
Well, he's been in Buffalo, so there's other players. Dodonov came from Florida, which was pretty good. There's been other guys that have, but Jack Eichel hasn't. To have the ability to play with some wingers, and we don't know whether it's going to be Pacioretty or Stone, or it could be Jonathan Marshall, Riley Smith. There's a whole bunch of them that you could see him play with, and I think that, for him personally, that's exciting. So there's lots. First, he wants to get back and play. That's the most exciting, just to get back to full health. He said he feels great. The only thing next is to introduce some sort of contact and slowly ramp that up. And as we said, you want to be careful and you want to make sure with that. But motivation to get back to prove to people that he's still an elite top player in this league, and then the excitement, pure joy he'll have thinking of who he possibly could play with here on the Golden Knights.
Want to transition to talking about the league as a whole. Want to start big picture. You always hear there's never an easy night in this league, yada, yada, yada. But the disparity between the top teams and the fourth place teams in each of the divisions seems even more minuscule than usual this year. It's 3 points separate first place and fourth place in the Metro, 6 separate first and fourth in the Central, and 4 in the Pacific. We're halfway through the season. This isn't a couple games in anymore. Why do you think things are so tight among the top teams?
I think there's just a lot of parity in the league. I think, out east is a little different. It's tight in the divisions, but I think they pretty much know their 8. Whereas the West, a little more wide open. The Central's very, dangerous, the top 4, and even not far behind that. Pacific, the same thing. And it is, I think, this year maybe a little more unique because of each team having to go through adversity. And it's who handles it best. There's a lot of uncertainty this season, game to game, day to day, for who you're going to have in the lineup and who the coaching staff's going to use and how you go from that. So, but it's who learns from it, who's able to adapt the quickest that'll get there. But certainly, so the parity's been there, and I think that's what makes it great about hockey is as you get to this point in the season. Not only vying for a playoff position, but jockeying for position in that playoff race. So the East is I feel we kind of know the 8 teams, which is rare at this time, but certainly that 1 through 8 placement is up for grabs. In the West, it is in the divisions, but there's also some teams that are very close on the outside. So there's a lot to play out here as we go through the rest of the NHL season.
Well, you mentioned the uncertainty. We have some news that might change some of that uncertainty, but first we're going to take a break, so we'll have that whenever we come back. Welcome back to Nighttime at Noon, and for exclusive Vegas Golden Knights gear, visit one of the Vegas Golden Knights official team store locations: the Armory, located at T-Mobile Arena; the Arsenal, located at City National Arena; or on our website, vegasteamstore.com, or on social media at VGK Gear. And welcome back inside Studio 31. Once again, Ashali, Vise, joined by Shane Hnidy. Shane talked about how there might be a little bit less uncertainty moving forward. I don't know that it's official yet, but it's everything but official that after the All-Star break, the league is going to stop testing asymptomatic players. Now, not here to get in a debate on what should or shouldn't be done, but without a doubt, that is going to change some things. Hopefully a lot fewer cancellations, and hopefully a lot more consistency among the teams.
Well, they're trying to find ways to fix it here as they move forward, and this will be between the NHL and NHLPA. They'll have their discussions and try and come to an agreement on the best way to move forward, and we'll wait and see how that comes. I know there's been a lot of players that have been asymptomatic that have been out and sitting at home feeling great. So I think this is just kind of, I don't know if we ever learn more about COVID worldwide, but certainly looking at ways to move through it a little more smooth.
So I should clarify that the testing will still happen for cross-border travel. This is just on a day-to-day basis, not testing players who are asymptomatic. Also hearing that this week, maybe as soon as tomorrow, hopefully a revised schedule. That has to feel good for the players to be able to kind of reset, right, and know what the road ahead might look like.
I think and through all of this, it's maybe one of the most challenging thing for players, because you're a creature of habit, and your whole life, you get, when your camp starts, and from then on, you have a schedule that is set in stone for their whole lives, right from when they've played, whether junior, college, minor, pro, whatever level, it's set. That's what you've known, and now it's kind of been constantly changing here the last few seasons. So I think with a lot of unknown here, they know they have some games to make up. Some teams a lot more than others, and for the Golden Knights, they want to get their schedule so you kind of put a little bit of plan in your head and understand moving forward what's needed of you. So hopefully that can get out here soon. And for fans, too, to know what's going on.
And you talked about earlier getting ready for the playoffs, because there's so much parity in the league. There's, it's so tight. Whenever you know that when you come back from the All-Star game, there's no more testing. Hopefully you have a normal schedule set and the league's tight. Does playoff hockey kind of begin at that point?
I think it starts to amp up, and you look at the standings, you see where you're at. I think you're working towards getting to that game, to hitting your best game, your best stride as a team as you get closer. There's still a lot of hockey to play, but there's a couple points in the season where it's almost like you flip the switch a little bit. And I think after the All-Star break's one of them, and then as you kind of get through March, well, it's different this year. It's the full month of April of hockey. So I think as you get into that last month, you try and hit another one, and everything cranks up a little bit around the league.
For Vegas, you do hope that it cranks up now heading into that road trip, though, like we talked about, because that's going to be a big one and a big chance just to get some confidence back up. Not that they're lacking in that department, but it would certainly turn things around. Fans might not like me for bringing this up. I know how they all feel about the San Jose Sharks, but Timo Meier, 5-goal game last night. Where does that rank among performances you've seen?
Oh, it's impressive. Anytime I think you score a hat trick's impressive. 4 goals is great, and that's happened around the league this season. But 5 goals by Timo Meier, very impressive. First time since I think Mika Zibanejad did it a few years ago. Impressive. The best 5-goal game was Mario Lemieux, and I had to look it up because he scored 5 goals 5 different ways. So he scored even strength, power play, shorthanded, a penalty shot, and an empty net. That's pretty good. And then Daryl Sittler, of course, had the 10-point game with 6 goals and 4 assists against the Boston Bruins a long time ago. I don't know. Dave probably called that game.
At that point, is a skater in a goalie's head? Like, how does that even happen?
Boy, that's why it's so rare. I don't know if there's an explanation how it happens. He's just on that night. When things go your way, and everything's just, he must have been feeling it. I don't know what luck. I hope he went out and bought a lottery ticket afterwards or whatever he needed to do. But everything certainly went his way, and it needs to go that player's way to have a night like that. It's a special feat to be able to accomplish.
And Montreal rolling into town this week with a new general manager, Kent Hughes, named this morning. What do you know about that situation?
Well, a lot of speculation about who is going to be, and obviously with Montreal, one of the parameters from the Molson family, what they needed to be bilingual. Kent Hughes, longtime player agent, a well-respected one, has some big names, and I don't think it would be an easy decision for him to step away from a very successful, agency. Chris Letang, Patrice Bergeron, a couple of them that belong with him. But this opportunity must have been something for him. I think he's a Montreal guy, and they found their guy, and the offer must have been right here as the Canadians are trying to revamp everything. Obviously, with a season unlike any other they've had in a historic franchise, they need to move forward, and Kent Hughes is going to be the guy that is given that task. It's not an easy one. It's a tough market to play in, to be part of an organization in, because it's been around forever. They are the kind of the standard there is they need to win. It's not very unforgiving in the media and everything, so they're going to have to turn things around, and we'll see if Kent Hughes can be the guy that helps lead them in that direction.
Staying in the East, a very special night in Boston. The Bruins are retiring.
Yes.
Willie O'Ree's number 22. 64 years to the day of when he debuted against the Montreal Canadiens and became the first black NHL player. I saw some comments last night of what took so long, but he means so much to the National Hockey League. But you playing in Boston, can you speak to what he means?
Oh, well, the trailblazer, right? Breaking barriers, and one of the kindest, sweetest men ever. What he's done and the way he's been able to stay in it and really be a big part of, continuing that message around the league for the NHL and for sport. A great honor that was, probably overdue for him to have that occasion happen last night. So all the best to Willie O'Ree and what he's done for this game and continues to do for this game moving forward.
I should mention that he's going to be involved in the All-Star festivities as well. I know he's going to be a part of a STEM panel that I'm going to be part of that I'm super pumped about. What a difference maker. Trailblazer is the perfect term to use for that. On Discovery last night, we got to see the Zamborghini. Have you seen this thing yet, Shane?
I heard about it, yes. Are you going to drive it? Do you get a chance?
You don't want me to. I'd break. I don't know how much that thing's worth. I would break it. I have zero doubt about that. I'd wreck it. Have you ever driven a Zamboni?
No, I haven't.
You haven't?
I haven't.
We got to put that on the list. Shane needs to be whipping the Zam around.
It's weird because when I grew up in a small town in Canada, and I basically lived at the rink or the arena. We only had one in my town, but I was on weekends after school. I'd hang out there. I'd move the nets for the Zamboni driver. I'd work the score clock. I'd do anything I could just to wait for an extra free 20, 30 minutes of ice where I could grab my skates and get on. So I did all the work around there except drive the Zamboni, but I was probably still too young to drive. And it was a little scary. Those turns can get, I wouldn't want to. It's a small town. You don't want to be the guy who breaks the one Zamboni.
Then no one can skate.
Yeah, that wouldn't be. That wouldn't have been good.
Well, Vegas isn't too small of a town. There's multiple Zambonis here, so maybe we can get Darren Elliott.
No, I don't think they want me. We'll see.
Get Shane on there.
Maybe I'll just ride on it.
Maybe you can ride it during the intermission.
Yeah, you should do that.
Slide a note. Practice your wave. Also, happy birthday to Alex Petrangelo. Shane, you're not going to sing happy birthday.
No, that would be Gosher's gig.
Show.
Yeah, Gosher, he could do his deep voice.
It was worth a shot. McNabb's birthday on Friday. Two guys, they've made a huge difference this season. We talked about it a little bit earlier with the absence of Alec Martinez, but the way those two especially have stepped up has been huge.
Well, that's what you expect from veteran guys, and just so important to this team in the same way and in different ways. Obviously, Petrangelo a lot more offensive, but Braden McNabb just kind of, you hear it from his teammates. They just respect each and every game, how he plays, how he approaches the game, his willingness to be physical, to block shots. He's tremendous. They're both just so important to the Golden Knights. So great leaders, great veterans in that room.
Well, happy birthday to Alex Petrangelo.
Yes, happy birthday, Alex.
Happy early birthday to Braden McNabb, 2 vets on the team, and just a couple more days in this homestand. Shane, you doing anything before we hit the road?
No, we'll get ready. I think, like everybody else, excited to get on a road trip. So take care of business on Thursday with a big W and 2 points, and then get ready for what's going to be a real tough test of a road trip.
It will be. It'll be a fun one, and everyone, thanks for listening. This was Nighttime at Noon for Shane Hnidy. I'm Ashali Vise. We'll see you next week.